On January 16, 2024, a federal judge blocked JetBlue's $3.8 billion acquisition of ultra-low-cost carrier Spirit, siding with the DOJ's argument that the merger would harm cost-conscious travelers by getting rid of America's biggest low-cost airline. This effectively shattered JetBlue's dreams of expanding west and further cemented the dominance of the Big Four airlines over US aviation. Ever since a series of high-profile mergers beginning in the mid-2000s, the number of airlines you could fly shrank to just half of what it previously was. This meant that airlines like American and Delta gained a ton of gates at their slot-restricted hub airports, making it virtually impossible for newcomers like JetBlue to challenge their commanding market presence. Not to mention a huge national shortage of skilled pilots and a growing backlog for new aircraft deliveries, making it much harder for JetBlue to expand their route network. The Spirit deal was supposed to fix all of that, giving JetBlue the planes, pilots, and route network needed to take on the big guys. But now, the DOJ killing the deal threw a wrench in their plans, stranding them in a bit of a mess. Already, JetBlue is being forced to cut routes left and right in a desperate push for profitability. But even then, JetBlue still got off relatively easy compared to
Spirit Airlines.
With Spirit down, 47%?
You see, while the deal was great and all for JetBlue's expansion ambitions, it was a lifeline for Spirit, the one thing keeping the airline from falling apart. While airlines like United and Delta have reaped record profits in the post-pandemic era, Spirit has been bleeding money for the past 4 years. But why exactly is Spirit headed towards bankruptcy, and what does this mean for the future of low-cost travel? At first glance, it seems like Spirit should be making a reasonable amount of profit, especially considering that they charge passengers extra for pretty much everything. But that's only if they get enough passengers to fill up their planes in the first place. While air travel demand has surpassed pre-pandemic levels in 2023, the rise in demand hasn't been felt evenly across the industry. Simply put, a lot less passengers are willing to fly low cost today than they did 4 years ago. Now, there are a number of possibilities as to why that might be, so let's break it down one by one. The aviation industry emerged out of the pandemic looking a whole lot different. For starters, the cost of jet fuel shot up thanks to Russia and Saudi Arabia decreasing their oil exports. As jet fuel is derived from petroleum and there's less of it out there, flying planes became a lot more expensive. This is no big deal for full-service airlines who have the luxury of raising fares to account for increased fuel costs. However, budget airlines, on the other hand, can't do that without the risk of losing passengers. Secondly, the rise in demand has been fueled primarily by transatlantic routes and premium cabins, both of which are markets in which ultra-low-cost carriers have historically struggled to maintain a foothold. But perhaps the biggest reason for Spirit's decline is that major airlines are simply beating low-cost carriers at their own game. Over the last few years, legacy airlines have significantly upgraded their fleets. American, for example, went from flying about 870 aircraft back in 2020 to over 950 today. The addition of all these new planes marks a huge increase in overall available seats, enabling airlines to charge less for each one. Ironically enough, Spirit, on the other hand, has had planes taken out of its fleet due to Pratt & Whitney recalling older A320neos powered by the P&W 1000G. The airline forecasts that at any given point in time this year, a whopping 26 A320s will be out of service due to problems with the engine. However, this issue doesn't affect legacy airlines as much since they operate a diverse fleet, whereas Spirit flies just A320s. Flying a singular aircraft type has historically been beneficial to low-cost airlines as it helps them lower maintenance costs, but it can also be a pretty big weakness as we're seeing now. Just imagine if Spirit flew only 737 MAXs. In that case, they would have declared bankruptcy ages ago. Jokes aside, Spirit can't exactly raise fares to compensate for lower capacity because their entire business model revolves around selling tickets at extremely low prices. So bigger airlines being able to offer better onboard products at cheaper prices is drawing away Spirit's customer base, since they have essentially lost their singular competitive advantage, which is cheap tickets. At the end of the day, love 'em or hate 'em, Spirit and other low-cost carriers have helped bring down ticket prices across the board. how, thanks to Spirit providing a cheaper alternative, the big four airlines were forced to bring down their own fares in order to prevent losing some of their customers to Spirit. That's why, when adjusted for inflation, an average flight ticket today is about $200 cheaper than it was back in the 1990s, back when low-cost airlines the way we know them today weren't a thing yet. This was also why the DOJ blocked the merger, as without Spirit acting as a check on their power, legacy carriers can shoot up ticket prices without any consequences. But either way, Spirit won't be around for much longer, since they seem to be inevitably headed towards bankruptcy if the merger doesn't go through. This means that prices will also go up either way, so the DOJ really isn't achieving anything by blocking the merger. Therefore, the only way to truly challenge the dominance of the big four airlines is through the merger, even if it comes at the expense of higher fares. Fortunately, JetBlue and Spirit have appealed the ruling, and a decision is expected this June. But if the merger is blocked yet again and demand doesn't return, it could very well mean the end of Spirit. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video interesting, hit that subscribe button.